Hello, my name is Crystal Noel, and today I will be responding to what award-winning author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie had to say. So first to begin with, I'll just give you a little rundown and overview of what I will be talking about today. So for the overview, I will mainly just be discussing and responding to what she's saying. I'm just gonna give you my opinion as basically telling you if I agree or disagree with what she is saying and responding to different topics that she talks about. So, first to begin with, the interviewer asked Chimamanda a question. She asked Adichie what she thinks is the intellectual route of book banning. And to this, Adichie responds saying, I don't think the book banning in this country is so much about books as it is about this kind of extreme polarization in this country. I think it's a symptom of it. I don't think I don't think we can talk about book banning without talking about polarization. That is quote what she said. So I agree with what Adichie is saying. Book banning can be talked about without talking about the polarization. So in every book that is banned or every book that is looking at being banned, there is in fact extreme polarization. There are two opposite groups at each side of the spectrum. It's either the side of the group that wants the book banned or the side of the group that does not want the book to be banned. And this can be in every group, or this can be in different groups and different minorities. So it might be a book about history that the education system might think it's too violent, or it might be a book about the LGBTQ plus community. It could be a book about a lot of different things. Most people who ban books or are against a certain book are often on opposite sides of a spectrum. As we may know it, this is polarization. And I do think that this is not a healthy or a good way when it comes to the aspect of book banning. This is not a healthy or a good way to deal with it because, you know, you may not like something, but someone else may like something. And just because you don't like that particular thing doesn't really give you grounds to just ban it or get rid of it. For example, we have homosexuality and books. When it comes to homosexuality and books that speak on these types of topics and the academic system, I feel like a lot of people get really iffy. And that's where, the banning of the book comes in. But I feel like, just because you may not like homosexuals doesn't mean that there aren't homosexuals in the education system. There are people that are homosexuals that, go to school. And just because you may be against homosexuality or on the opposite side of the spectrum, polarization, just because you are against homosexuality or the opposite side of the spectrum doesn't mean that it's okay to just go ahead and ban the book, because, there are children who can feel left out or less educated. And I'm just using the example of homosexuality, but there are other different examples also that can be taken into aspect. So overall, I agree with what Adichie is saying. You can't talk about book banning without talking about polarization. I feel like these two topics go hand in hand. And yeah, I agree with what she is saying. So next, we're gonna dive into why banning books doesn't work. Adichie spoke pretty briefly on this topic. So Adichie said, and I quote, I, for example, if I heard a book had been banned, I would go read it. It would make it even more interesting. I agree with what she is saying. I feel like I'm a testimony of that. You know, there are a lot of things that your parents would say don't do, but you do it because you're curious. So, with that, with taking that into consideration, we can just, transfer it over to and apply it to our topic, book banning. And it's the exact same thing, you ban a book, and as a result, the child just ends up being a lot more curious about the book, and they'll end up reading it because it was banned. It makes it more interesting, it spikes their curiosity, and as a result, it just makes them want to read the book. So banning a book would only make children more curious about the book. And yeah, I agree with what Adichie is saying in that statement. So next we're going to be moving on to non-book lovers and how they affect this book banning situation. So most people who ban books or are against a certain book being in the education system haven't actually read the book. Adichie said, and I quote, because really people who are banning these books don't actually read. Many of them don't. It's true though, they don't. So it's not as though they are sort of, book lovers who are really dedicated. No, they don't read. This is very true. I have seen several protests against certain books being in schools. And if you pull one of the parents who are at these protests, if you pull them aside and you really ask them what the book is about, 9 times out of 10, they really can't give you an answer. That's the literal definition of judging a book by its cover. So I think, in my opinion, a book shouldn't be banned just because of what it may portray. I feel like if you haven't actually read a book, then you shouldn't have grounds to say whether it should be banned or not. Yeah, most people who ban books haven't actually read the book. I do agree with what Adichie is saying in that statement. So after Adichie finished talking about non-book lovers and them having a say in banning books and how non-book lovers don't really read a book before they ban it, she then goes on to talk about standing up for what is right. She says, and I quote, what worries me though is sometimes learning about people who give in to this. I really think it's important to stand up to this kind of nonsense. So I agree with what Adichie is saying here. If we in fact do not stand up for, what is right and take action against the banning of educating and factual books, then the children in minority groups would suffer a great deal of consequences, such as not being properly educated and properly informed. They wouldn't be informed on different issues, such as things that they may be able to relate to and stuff of those sorts. Another thing that she touches on is the resistance. She says, and I quote, I want to talk about it as a reader rather than as a writer, right? So for me, it's a question of really resistance. I think that public libraries should say no. I think that public schools should say no. I do agree with this statement. I agree with what Adichie is saying here. I think that public schools and libraries should have a say in the books that they do and the books that they do not want. I think that they should be able to say no to a particular book being banned if it is factual, if it is educating. I think that they should be able to have some type of say in the books that they do not want banned, because as we may know it, this directly impacts the future generation. This directly impacts the educational system. This affects the academic system, and it just affects children um, as a whole. So I think that libraries and schools should have a say in what they would want in their schools. They should be able to say, no, we want this book back in our schools. This is a factual and educating book that helps minorities in our school, that helps children in our school. This book is an advantage and a good thing for our students in the process of learning. So yes, this is all what I have to say. Overall, I do agree with what Adichie had to say. I think that her aspects and what she talks about is very factual. I think that these are things that need to be talked about when it comes to the academic system and the banning of books. Thank you.